To Enki, oneness is somehow delusional, or Lucifer suicides. If going back to studying the terrible epidemic and popular revelation about narcissistic personalities, to the narcissistic person, the only oneness is everything. Every single other soul, body, or thing is an object there to serve their ego, to serve them. And of course, since Lucifer is the source of this problem, what we're going to see here globally is those of us, including the parts of our subconscious ourselves, that are not willing to give up obedience to the false demigod Lucifer, or junior god, son of our mother Christ, and the Syrian Lucifer. The more you learn the truth about the soul-sucking planetary system we are one, that we are in, one thing becomes obvious. Prince Enki, or Lucifer, has no ability to discern oneness besides from the false perception of a covert narcissist, false father's abuse. The ways that this occurs in that problem. In other words, we are all just objects, soul material, to be used and consumed by the junior god, who is simultaneously the greatest con artist and the biggest vampire of all time. Face it, folks, that's who we're up against in this psychological war. And the preface to Kurt Vonnegut Jr.'s uber popular book, Slaughterhouse-5, which was a fiction based on the novel about how he served in I believe it was the Korean War. It often seemed in the preface to that book, Kurt Vonnegut Jr. said, the power of good can overcome the powers of evil if the power of good can get organized along the lines of the mafia. In other words, as I've said many times, the dark side has always had the most masterful infiltration and organization skills through their horrible, negative, nefarious means, of course. It often seems impossible for the respectful good side to organize against the dark side, because the Syrian Anunnaki, the Belial sons, Elohim and Black Sun, Draco reptilians, have always been masters of infiltration and organization. The more vile and evil, vampiric, and controlling a person is, the more of a narcissistic psychopath you are, the higher up in the hierarchy you get in their inverted sick-ass system. Okay? If you were Catholic, for example, and you were raised Catholic, you know the priests that were willing to do these horrible acts and deeds would probably be even more powerful and higher and closer to God than you. How do we know that the secret dark side, how did only 2 or 3 of the most discerning researchers figure out the problem with the supposed channel book, The Law of One? Well, because they admitted to harvest. They used the word harvest. We're going to harvest your souls. The Pope said, I am Jesus. And why Lucifer can't survive the second coming? The reason why Lucifer can't survive the second coming is because his whole belief structure is based in denial and illusion and bitterness and hatred and towards his mother and brother. An Orthodox rabbi cannot look me in the eye, but for a conservative Jew, they are closer to the Creator. Even the resistance and the freedom-oriented groups trying to get together are psychologically besieged by ego, hubris, narcissism, and inverted hierarchy. Internal hierarchy, rather. I naively thought coming into this or creating this community, or trying to build a community online and amongst freedom groups would magically coalesce into, a community. But of course, as Castaneda said in his book, The Active Side of Infinity, they gave us their minds. What did he mean? You see, when Lucifer and the other dark ETs tinkered with our DNA and their engineering warfare, they gave us their minds. They put some humans might even have some great ancestor that was actually Syrian. They gave us their minds. And while many anarchist teachers several of the greatest anarchist teachers of our generation have had this tragic problem. Everyone from David James Rodriguez to Larkin Rose, Mark Passio. I made a probably stupid mistake in the great freedom writer Larkin Rose's anarchist YouTube channel, because he said he didn't talk to anyone else at the Anarchapulco gathering. I stupidly accused him of having NPD and said he should edit out that part of the video. And he said, when you make up shit and argue against it, why should I take you personally? And to me, that response made me think, oh no, he really does have a tragic case of NPD. And of course, if you point that out to especially a stranger or someone you don't know very well, it's pretty stupid, socially retarded I was being perhaps then. Whereas David James Rodriguez, I put comments on his Freedom Lovers videos since he got kicked out of Santa Cruz, moved back to Mount Shasta, and I put loving comments on his videos, and he never responded. To Mark Passio being kind of a double agent historically and in the moment, unfortunately, because he gets real angry, and of course he was a satanic high priest, but I believe I betrothed the possibility that because he's a vegan, he's angry because he's a vegan, his brain doesn't get any cholesterol if he's still a vegan. And even though he's taking fresh raw juice while he makes the video, which is why I'm losing my voice, because I left mine in the other room. He fails because he's inciting the fact that everyone is a failure, and I have to cite this character deficit that because I've suffered from the covert form of it myself, and so then we have Ron DeSantis. Pretty much everyone who's done something minor to wonderful for freedom, 96% of them are going to have this problem. They can all help and fight the fake gods by telling the truth unequivocally, courageously, maintaining and creating mental and physical spaces for freedom. But yet most of us have so far been punished repeatedly and targeted successfully. Every time those on the side of truth and freedom were not only infiltrated socially with literally an Illuminati member pretty much in nearly every clique, as I've said, and the good side has been internally stymied and stopped by ego, hubris, and narcissistic personality types of all sorts, and hero ideation from an individual leader, or uncleared narcissistic false god human object ideations. In other words, most of them might have subconsciously thought of everyone else as an object to saving the world, unless they got over it through the shadow work. And this is one reason I focus so heavily on the shadow work. Psychopaths are promoted to the top of the hierarchy, and all hierarchy, even more so in the ranks of the other angels beside Lucifer. If you can be subtly abusive and subtly an authoritarian psychopath, you will be given a raise. You will get promoted. And it's all anti-human life. Why? Because the real original creator, Christ Sophia, has none of this garbage inherently in her divine mind. Although she gave us all free will, she let her son Lucifer do this horrible shit. And because we're all given free will, they can't directly, that's why I say the dark side has to always hide. They can't directly interfere. They have to pretend like they're giving you informed consent while they do their experimenting on you. She gave us all free will before the matrix and box slavery was forced on us all, most of us all on planet Earth. So, especially during 2024, we will see this inverted control system begin to fully rot out underneath itself and become dismantled from within. Maybe even before the fiat forced crash and imposition of the CBDC this April, which they've already announced. Okay? If you do the research. Because, as I've said, the fake, the fake inverted idea they have that they can play with their hexagram on the end of planet Saturn and like Event 201, just announce what they're going to do and it's going to make it work. And because guess what? Just like the Europeans and farmers with their John Deere trucks and the European Union and their burning pallet effigies, numbers of us humans have had it. Okay? And all of us who refuse the obvious truth that everything is connected, okay, and all thoughts are things, will be demoted and put in their place. Which, might be the mind sewers or prisons they built for the freed. Because, the real creator, Christ Sophia, the planet Saturn before it had all this garbage put on it, it doesn't play. It just gives people what they deserve. It gives beings what they put out. Lucifer and his clubs thought they had to kill Jesus, Gandhi, JFK, Bob Marley, and John Lennon because, kill the messenger, kill the martyr, because they were sharing, risking their lives, making beautiful songs and telling the truth, sharing and popularizing the truth of the oneness and respect for the divinity in us all, Christ Sophia in all of our hearts. Whereas the women's elimination movement, the Green Revolution or the Green New Deal and sustainable development movement and the geoengineered climate change operations narrative, like that, a balanced exposure, like, for example, they've been telling us for since I've had this flesh suit 40 years, that if you expose yourself too much to the sun, it will cause skin cancer. Well, yeah, if you go insane and go for 5 or 7 hours, but if you get a balanced exposure, which to me is, if you're African, if you have a melanin in your skin longer, but somewhere between 30 minutes to 3 hours, for me, 30 minutes to 3 hours of sunlight for me is healing and, essential, if I can, good for me. And that's why, one of the many reasons why they block it. So exposure to the sun is bad for you was this one of these fake narratives I've overturned on these video series. If you watch the playlist and or explained how they evolved out, or they were, these Decepticon narratives were forced through Freedom of Information Act or just human awareness and awakening to evolve past their garbage ideas. And that's what's going to happen to some of these as well. Clearing out even some of the inversions that they've taught us over especially the last century. Collectively, humanity will soon reorganize towards full respect to the divine, to the real divinity and free will within us all. It's inevitable, folks. That's why they had to pull these insanely psychologically and even physically violent shenanigans of the last 3 years of this, or turn up the dial on the psychological war. And after the same time, after the CZU fires and using direct energy weapons decimated and burned downtowns. Local Santa Cruzans, for example, and a great example of what I call UTAT, through Facebook, they organize citizen watch groups for fires and arsonists, and so that when they noticed, that there was a forest fire, the citizens would get there, because they learned the hard way if they left it to Cal Fire, that certain houses would be saved by Cal Fire and others ignored and allowed to burn to the ground. As Lahaina, even worse, was the biggest soul harvest and possibly adrenochrome mass extraction death ritual and loosh harvest ever on planet Earth in one moment, achieved in one day, when over 2,000 children went missing. Many, many more humans, especially Hawaiians, but on the whole planet, due to this incident, even that are involved with the government organizations that might have had something to do with this, many, many more humans will self-recruit in this temporal and information war to work in new social configurations and safety guards that ideally, if I'm not being a Pollyanna idealist, will make sure that these crimes like this will never happen again, even if they turn Lahaina into their 15-minute city successfully still. When Israel's amazing security forces, who Gabor Mate said, they're the greatest security forces on the planet, okay, from his estimation, could not prevent Hamas firebombs and overt destruction of innocent life, people will have to question their violent gods that always demand blood sacrifices. While many of us are super thankful for example, Ron DeSantis and Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s response on the side of truth and freedom in the 2020 and 2021 battles over the censorship over the medical truth and the lockdown mandates, when Ron DeSantis got me the right to ride on public transportation without a mask through lawsuits, and RFK Jr. wrote his book about Fauci, we were equally appalled at their cowardly in the club, because Kennedy's one of the 13 Illuminati bloodlines, acceptance and promotion of the declaration and retaliation of violence in Israel. As Zionists, they are obviously double agents in the international war we're in, both probably and severe and serious double agents when they've risked their lives for freedom and willing to sacrifice American young men to die for the violent God in Israel. They probably both thus have likely ruined their chance of being our president for this very reason. That's why they're not in the running, my guess. People think Trump is more about peace. I mean, I don't know what to say about that. I mean, people claim that he didn't run any wars while he was in office, but you tell me what you think in the comments. Nobody who is spiritually awake wants more warmongers running the show, and Trump is another warmonger. All war is an ancient anti-human program of the dark side ETs that consider us puppets, slaves, or energy drinks and tools. They brought war to this planet. The original Christos human race was not into war before the Vikings and the reptilians and the En.ki got here. And war is the most obvious way our soul's energy is extracted. Just think about it. If you're too much of a thug or a blockhead to realize the sensitive ways they steal your energy constantly, it's really obvious in war. Box slavery is the psychological warfare and attempted forced separation imposed on nearly everyone on planet Earth, at least if they stay in a beautiful place like this. Watching Mark Passio lately, what happened to David James Rodriguez in 2021, and the reason why he could never respond to my comments I put on his YouTube channel is because almost everyone suffers at least a little bit from narcissism. Okay? Freedom Lovers TV is a great show, and but it makes me shy away, even though I need to go to watch it again. Because every single person, including myself, if they're being narcissistic, it is just repulsive to the person trying to build a freedom community, and that includes so many in the freedom communities. It's quite sad. And it's the reason why my estimation is it's the reason why Sam Vaknin and Jerry Wise could never respond to comments I placed. I think Jerry might have said thank you, but Sam Vaknin would never respond to the comments I placed on his videos because he admits to being a narcissist as well. It is all the same internal problem. And if Lucifer actually has any chance to even suck seed in their plans after another several years or several decades, the New World Order is really down to this one simple fact. Beside the reptilians' brilliancy at organization and physical separation through coercion and violence and wars and threats, is this egotism, hubris, and narcissism can and will prevent the foundation of real psychological freedom. I see it all the time. Maybe that's because, again, I haven't completed the shadow work of becoming so humble that I completely or 96% get it out of my own personality and all of my chakras and my deeds. However, so they prevent psychological freedom in their minds, the place where freedom must start. And without facing the essential shadow work, we will see Lucifer's suicide spree, killing us all softly with attrition and the hubris of constant narcissism, precluding proper, respectful organization of humanity's liberation. And the reason why I actually needed my friendship with Laura Eisenhower is because I needed a friend that was humble enough to accept me, that had done that shadow work, or was actually had enough equanimity and understanding and compassion to realize that I've been a sacred clown and a serious spiritual teacher. Okay. Because the devil will always be in the ego and psychological details of your plans, promoting your social failure until you whip the hubris out of your own mind, at least a little bit, or you ain't going to have any community. You ain't going to have any friends. They're all going to want to get away from you, no matter who you are, no matter how talented of a speaker you are, no matter how many thousands of followers you have, no matter how many tens of thousands of subscribers you have on YouTube. If you got a big ego full of hubris and NPD, you ain't going to ever be able to put it together socially. Okay? And even self-respect, let alone respect for others, is not possible if you are a narcissist. It even flunks out many ensouled avatars who know about this already internally, and are working partially the way to healing, and even people like me that have made dozens of YouTube videos about this topic. Still, for sure, 2020 marked the intense final phase of Enki's attempted takeover plans and the escalation of World War III, which is mostly, like I said, even though there's going to be these, what seems to be random, periodic, violent, crazy weaponry, modern weapons attack happening, the main theme is going to be psychological liberation, okay? Because Aquarius governs the mind, okay? So, for sure, 2020 marked the intense final phase of En.ki's attempted takeover plans and the escalation of World War III, but it will be most often not be direct energy weapons, floods, and fire bombings, although that is going to happen more. It will be played out in our mind, okay? And collectively, as we see everywhere, Lucifer's desperate suicide sprees, forcing us all to, if we want to have any future at all, folks, if we want to have any future life at all in this election year in particular, you know they're going to run more attacks. So recognize God the Father has no respect for life, and holding on to the forced death matrix is also our own suicide, individually and collectively. Okay? Because Christ, Mother Sophia, gave you a free will. There is no reason to give that up if you have the courage. If you have harmlessness, you can do anything, as the cliche goes. Knowing the golden rule is a must. The golden rule of the Bible is one of those parts that they left in that was true. It is a must. Okay? As soon as you harm someone else, you're in the age of Aquarius. It's a boomerang. You whiplash. You harm your own self, physically or mentally, spiritually, rapidly. You're harming yourself. That every time you want to harm me, bam, there's your boomerang, motherfucker. That's how quick it is. What my friend Ross Shawn told me several times is that the Hopi, Native American Hopi, said the age of the lone wolf is over, and I'm still getting over being a hermit after all these years. And they also said, know your food and know your water. The truth is simultaneously out there as it is in here. Freedom is an inside job, folks. It always has been. To Enki, oneness is delusional, because he is a spiritually retarded, covert narcissist, or none of the stuff he'd done in the last millions of years would have ever occurred. Okay? Get or stay real, even under all of these invisible weapon attacks, simply by, if you have the courage and the discipline, by remembering her gift of free will and respect. And always, if you have the courage, peace can only grow from within your heart, not from trying to control others or from the outside control system. Awakening is an inside job, as always, my family. No one's coming to save you. But if you have the courage and the discernment to learn, to respect, to remember how to return, to go to the queendom on earth, you will be there. We will meet in other ways beside the video form. I love you, family. And if you haven't already and you enjoyed this, click subscribe for more and hit the notification bell. Follow me on Odyssey.com or Rumble for a deeper, redder pill if you're ready for several more dark truths. And remember, it's your job, if you shall take it, to awaken to the reality of the connection of all things in the oneness. The obvious truth that every 3 or 5 year old child with respectful, healthy parents knows. We are all sharing this planet. Loving you, fam. Peace.